Why are we made to feel bad for simply being Australian and being patriotic? Seriously, why? Like, why? In this episode, I just want to ask questions and really just have a chat about the simple things that are becoming so controversial and why they shouldn't be. And as you know, liberty, patriotism, and especially free speech are the most important things to me. And right now, our country is in a crisis on multiple fronts, with our fundamental identity being challenged because look, it was never really fully established in the first place. So I'm sick of the media bias, of the MSM bullshit, of politicians overcomplicating things, of the division, of the distraction, and especially, and this is what really gets me, the systematic shame for waving our flag. So guys, welcome back to the LM Show. Make sure you leave all of your thoughts in the comment section down below. I hope you enjoyed this episode. I feel like we're gonna have a good rant today, so let's get into it. Alright guys, I feel like, by now, majority of us at least has gone through the schooling system, and in my opinion, a lot of us were only taught one side of the story when it comes to Australian history. And I think what's fundamentally wrong with our society right now, and what's the root cause for many of the problems that we're facing, is that patriotism is a lot of the time looked down upon. But look, if the country's people can't feel supported to be loudly proud of their country, that's kind of like literally what patriotism means, then the fundamental values that country says it upholds just gets washed away. It's like what a lot of people say, if you can't define it, you can't defend it. And that is so true. And look, this is our weekly rant, so just speaking off the top of my head here, yesterday I saw a video and it was of an American, doing a fit check and stuff, but she had overlay of text and it said, when you sit for the flag, you aren't disrespecting the president, you're disrespecting those who fought and died for your freedoms. And that can be more true. Because, you don't really hear our brave soldiers saying they went to fight because they wanted to keep the PM in power. They generally, in a democratic situation, go to fight to protect their homelands, their country, their people. So every time you see our flag burning, anytime you see agendas being pushed saying that children can redesign our flag, it's not an act of outrage towards the government. No one doing that is disrespecting the PM or the potential PM or the opposition leader or party leaders. They might find it disrespectful, but that act of outrage isn't directly disrespecting them. They're disrespecting the people who fought for this country, who built up this country, who laid down their lives for this country and fought to keep your freedoms intact. That's who you're disrespecting. So I think patriotism is a fundamental thing a country should uphold and always support within citizens, because without it, I think that others feel like they can disrespect our country. And to be clear, this has absolutely nothing to do with whether you're on the left or whether you're on the right. Literally nothing. The left and the right as a front look like they're becoming extremely divided, but the reality is, I don't think they are. I think the media just shows the most extreme voices from both sides. And being patriotic is what every citizen of Australia should be, because your devotion should be to the country that you're living in. And to be blunt, if you don't like the country that you're living in right now and don't want to be patriotic towards it, then go live in a country that you would be patriotic towards. I think that's fair to say. Now the next question, another basic one. Name a country where socialism has worked. It doesn't. So why do people want it here? Look, personally, I believe in capitalism. To me, capitalism is the structure and the belief of anyone going, you know what, the situation I was put into as, being a child was pretty shit, okay? But I don't need to stay in that. I can build up a company from scratch and make it into a multi-million-dollar empire, okay? I can achieve the Australian dream, I can innovate, I can invent, right? That's to me what capitalism is. And capitalism must function as a meritocracy, where a person isn't judged by, whether they're a man or a woman or what ethnicity they are. They're judged based on their merits, their work, their knowledge to complete a task or achieve a goal. Right? And with capitalism, there are, of course, like with everything, there are some flaws, all right? But the extreme alternative to capitalism would probably be communism, but like the next one would be socialism. right? And to me, socialism, leads to dictatorships. It never works. Liberty does not work with socialism. It takes your freedom away. I think socialism leads to control and corruption. Socialism really sounds like the easy alternative, but in practice, I think it's just so contradictory to human psychology. Right? I could talk about that for so long. It's such an interesting topic because it has a lot to do with human psychology and sort of nature sort of thing. But yeah, moving on, back to the main point. If socialism, and let's just throw in communism, if those models never actually worked and a lot of the time lead to famine and inequality, then why do people want that model in Australia? It's proven to fail. Moving on a little bit though, every single day in the back of my mind, I always think, we don't have the Bill of Rights. Are we actually free? Do we really have freedom? Real freedom? Then I think about all the men and women who died defending and wanting our freedoms to be established and stay intact. Then I think of the reality yet again of today. What's happened really over the past 6 months even. And then I get angry because the cause that they defended isn't what we're upholding. I'm so sick and tired of saying the government isn't upholding it. Okay, because I still think that we live in a democracy and we decide who gets elected. So inevitably, it's on us. All right, and I feel like I don't even need to add anything to that argument here. All right, I think about that every single day. And I can make a whole video on this topic. I have a lot to say about it. But I think what's more important is what you guys think, right? Because we elect the PM. So do you think that we have freedom? Genuine liberty? Right now in our country, do you think that we have genuine freedoms? And if you do, research our laws, all right? They don't really back it up. Now, a little bit off topic, something else that I've noticed over the past, probably couple of months now, is this rhetoric of, you can't ask me that question because it'll offend me. Or you can't ask that because it'll offend others, or, That's when political debate halts and feelings become more important than facts. So that's when division starts. Division then leads to less communication, and less communication really leads to control. So free speech is on the decline, and it does not help when the MSM is reporting so much lately on the extreme sides of the arguments, because I reckon we agree on a lot more things than we disagree on, but that isn't shown as much, and therefore doesn't support debating because labels just get thrown around instead. So guys, that was a bit of a deeper episode, but as always, I'd love to hear your thoughts on everything we've covered. Also, check out our new Ozfest merch at shopkango.com. If we hit enough signups, we'll move straight into production. And also, this is just kind of, I always think talking about this stuff is so important, and talking about politics is so important, but it does get a bit overwhelming at times and a bit depressing at times. So look, what really helps me is remembering why we're fighting for our country. And to me, it's because our country is beyond, it's one of a kind. Our nature, our culture, and also we're fighting for our country, for our future, and for our future generations to live in freedom, to live in safety. And I always, what helps me is trying to get into nature, going for a bushwalk or to the beach, something like that. That really helps me, when I'm feeling overwhelmed or just a bit down in the dump sort of thing, looking at what's happening in the news. So that's kind of just what helps me a little bit. But I hope everyone has a great weekend, and I'll see you all in my next one. Thanks guys.